Good evening. It is Monday, September 18th, 2023. My name is David Patty. I am Stayton City Council President, and I will be presiding over this meeting tonight. The mayor is absent, and I will be presiding in his place. First off, it's going to be about 7:06 p.m., and we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. So this will be a regular session meeting, and we're going to begin with a flag salute. Okay, thank you so much for that. And with that, we'll move on to announcements. Do we have any additions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Any declarations of ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, bias, etc.? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We have no appointments tonight. City staff, do we have any public comment? Well, all right then. With that, we'll move on to item 6, the consent agenda. Council, do we have any action on those two things?
Councilor Patty, I will move to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a motion.
A second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. We go ahead and pull the council.
Councilor Giglio?
Yes.
Councilor Ort?
Yes.
Councilor McDonald?
Yes.
Councilor Sims?
Yes.
Councilor Patty?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thanks, appreciate that. Okay, moving on to the item number 7, we're going to go to presentations, and we have first new employee introductions from our own city manager, Julia Hajduk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and good job. You're just cruising along on this meeting. So I have the pleasure of introducing to you 3 new staff. One's been around a little bit longer, but she wasn't able to be at the last council meeting, so we brought her back. I'll start oldest to newest, so we'll do Kendra Fury. Is our code compliance officer. Come on up, don't be afraid. You've got your speech memorized, right? I'm just kidding. Sorry, that was mean. So Kendra has been with us a few months now. She came in about 2 weeks before Dan left, and then got a brain dump from Dan and has been surviving and doing a great job here, kind of on her own. We've been supporting her as much as we can, but on her own. But I don't know if you if you want to say anything about your background. She's a Stayton resident, correct? And yeah, any questions of her or?
Council, do you have any questions for Kendra?
I'm going to need you to recite code. Nothing.
Dan,
welcome. Thank you.
Dan could have done it. He probably could have.
Councilor Patty?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. It's a really, really important, and I know it's not a very easy job, but it's really, really, really important. And so I just want to thank you for your service, and it's very, very important what you're doing.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, it's just nice. She's always got a friendly demeanor, a friendly face, but she's getting stuff done, and is, I haven't heard any complaints, so that's always a good thing. So,
well, in that vein, Kendra, could you share with us if there's any compliance issues that you've noticed overwhelming that our town has that we should be looking at?
Mainly right now, it's just overgrown grass, like rubbish is what it's called in the code, to put it politely, and then also trees. That's about it right now.
Thank you. Trees and grass. Okay, we'll take that to the masses. I appreciate it.
Councilor Patty?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you say that, so I know most code is like complaint driven, but would you say that you're able to get out and like go looking for violations, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so I get calls periodically. I mainly go around. I have like a tracking system that we use, and so what I do is I go around at least once a week And then by the time those expire, then the following week, then I can do my routines, and then I do the second step if it need to be. So how I stagger it is I go out at least once a week to get complaints or code violations or whatever you want to call it. And then at that point, I just keep going. So I'm 3 days a week. And then every day there's something that's expiring. So I'm constantly keeping up on it. And then if there's complaints, I just go out and see what's wrong.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for letting us ask you a couple of questions. I
know.
really appreciate it. Sorry to put you on the spot.
I have another
Oh,
one. Okay.
Counselor Orr, what you got?
So if someone sees something that they think is an issue, how can they tell you about it? Tell the city about it?
They can go online. There's a form that they can do anonymously. I think that at that point, if they do the form, it shows their name and their phone number, so you can contact them. They can email me, or they can call me with anonymous.
And that's on the website, right?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you could go now. Thank you. So her new supervisor
Thank you.
is Jennifer Siciliano. I said that correctly. She is our new Community and Economic Development Manager, also known as the person who filled Dan's position. It's confusing because the position title changed, but that she's doing a lot of the things that she did, but we retitled it because we wanted to kind of put the emphasis on that community development and economic development piece. So she will be doing a little bit more intentional economic development than I think Dan did, but it's still generally what Dan did. Jennifer, would you, and she's been here 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. Jennifer, would you like to tell the council a little bit about yourself? Oh, microphone on, please. The button. She hasn't been to Planning Commission yet, so she hasn't figured this all out. There you go.
Okay. All right. So I've been involved in planning for many years out on the East Coast, and I've been working for different towns and different communities. And about a year ago, I moved to Oregon, which is where my husband is originally from SIO. So he asked me. He told me, Stayton's a really nice place. You should go and check out Stayton. And I talked to Dan, and he said, you know, I'm going to be retiring soon. So I looked into Stayton, and it's a great town. And I'd love to put my planning skills to your town. So I'm excited.
Any
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. Do we have any questions? And keep in mind, she's only been here 2 weeks. We don't want to scare her away, guys. Well, thank you.
Oh,
Well,
thank
you
you.
got off easy.
I know.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, and last but not least, he's been here for 3 days. This is his third day. Is Christian? I'm going to Smithwood. Come on up. He is our new community engagement coordinator. So we're super excited to have him. He's already helped us with outreach and notice, and has lots of really exciting and fun ideas. Christian, do you want to tell council anything? Very brief. It doesn't. He was like, anything? Share anything or?
Like a little bit about myself, or
Sure. Yeah.
A little bit about myself is that I am a graduate from Oregon State University with a new media communications degree, and recently certified from the University of Oregon with a digital marketing degree, or not degree, but certification. And I work a lot with videos and online content, taking things and basically making them into little packages that everyone can, enjoy and dig into for complex things, or yeah.
Awesome.
And again, day 3, and I will just highlight, so one of the things that I think really excited us about him, one of the interview questions was we gave him some Facebook some Facebook posts and said, what would you do to improve these, or what would you do with this? And, admittedly, he probably took this one a little bit further than we might necessarily need to go, but it was so cool. Now all I want to do is do this, but now I can't remember the name of the little pickle guy. Perry the Pickle, to advertise our pickleball court. And he had a whole little cartoon and a tournament. So lots of really exciting, fun ideas outside of the box, things that you wouldn't necessarily think about. So we're excited to see what crazy and fun ideas he brings our way to get people excited about what we have to offer. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. Does anybody have anything for day 3?
I got it.
Oh, Steve's got one. Didn't get off easy.
Good to have you on board, and go Beavs.
Well, with that, let's move right along. Sounds like we have a... Thanks, Christian. I appreciate you. It looks like we have a community partner presentation from North Santiam Youth Athletics next. Looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, come on up, and I'm sorry, I didn't get names of who was presenting, so I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah. I'm Brian Baker. I'm the president of the NSYA, North Santiam Youth Athletics. And I wanted to thank you for having me here today, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about our organization. NSYA came into existence to avoid left by other organizations leaving our community. And in 2017, community parents got together and decided that a more stable organization was needed for their kids' sports activities. In October of 2018, we incorporated as a 501c3 with a 7-member board and a director of sports for each of our sports that we... I didn't get that. We serve any child in the community that wants to play organized sports. This year we have served about 500 children. We have about 50 volunteers, sports directors, coaches, and referees in soccer, flag football, volleyball, and track and field. As you're aware, our numbers continue to grow due to the increase in the population and the availability of housing in the area, so we don't see that trend stopping anytime soon. One of the most important things about our organization is that no child is turned away from playing sports if they can't pay due to a lack of funds. We have some community partners in the business community that provide scholarships and sponsorships for our sports. And the Heart Foundation has been helping us out with any additional equipment needs that the kids might have to play sports. Last year we added adult softball as a fundraiser for the NSYA, and again this year we had terrific turnout, so much so that we exceeded the number of fields that were available. And so unfortunately we consistently have to turn teams away, but that's a great problem to have. Going forward, we have goals to create an organization that provides recreational sports for the youth in our community, to keep the cost of recreational sports accessible, and to provide an opportunity for any child to play in our community, regardless of their ability to pay. We want to be a trusted partner in this community and to provide that service. This fall we'll have a retreat to create a strategic business plan so we can deliver the best quality product for those kids. In the future, we want to expand the sports we offered. We noticed that the only sport that we offer in the spring is track and field, and then we have, again, the 3 other sports in the fall. And so there was some interest in potentially bringing lacrosse to our community, and it just so happens that one of our adult soccer volunteers is a former lacrosse high school coach. So we're looking forward to offering that here this or next spring. We are outgrowing our current facilities. And the reason I'm here is because we want to have a voice in the community and to participate in planning of the future recreational facilities. In closing, I'd like to share two things with you. First, the mission of the NSYA is that we're dedicated to providing youth team sports, strong adult role models, and community involvement opportunities. And finally, our long-term goal is to become a partner with all the entities in the area that will help us accomplish this mission. Expanding recreational opportunities for everybody in the community. So, I want to thank you all for your time, and if you had any questions.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Council, do we have any questions?
I nailed it. That's what you're telling me.
Oh, I think Ben's got one for you.
Brian, Councilor Patty and I and Mary Quigley had met with you previously to talk about some things you were interested in doing. At the time, you expressed, like you just previously said, that you're short on fields sometimes and short on areas to play the sports, and so I know we as a council have been thinking about and working on the Mill Creek Park, and I don't know if you have gotten a hold of Lance yet to talk about those areas and what could possibly be done there. So this is me asking you if you have, and if not, I think we need to kind of push for that. Get you guys together and figure something out so we can, because I know there's areas that are of opportunity there.
We definitely would like to do that. We haven't been able to thus far because we met right before all of our sports started going out. So it's kind of been all hands on deck here for the last couple of months. But now I'd be super open to meeting with him. What's Lance's last name? I'm sorry?
Public Works Director. And I believe he's actually online, and I will get him your contact information so that he and you can coordinate a meeting.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Councilor
All right,
Ring?
Councilor Orr, go ahead.
Not a question, but I just want to say thank you to your organization. This will be my son's 3rd year playing flag football, and he's so excited about his first game this Saturday.
That's fantastic.
And my daughter doesn't want to play soccer anymore, but she
That's
said
all right. We got volleyball.
Well, she said she keeps getting hit in the head with a ball, so volleyball might not be her thing either. But we're looking forward to possibly lacrosse. Would be cool. So
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you, and I know that I can probably speak for all of us that we're interested in seeing how we can partner together to keep your program thriving. So thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
Awesome. One other thing I'll just say is, have you been communicating with the North Santiam School District Board as they move forward with potential strategic planning? Because it seems like your organization should definitely be having a seat at that table as they move forward with that process.
To be honest, this is our first point of contact. So why we're here is to get this sort of information. Like, who do we need to partner with? Who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to get in front of? So I wrote that down. That's our next step, I guess, huh?
Awesome. Well, I'll see you on Thursday in that case. I'll be there. Anybody else for?
I was going to say, Councilor
Yep,
Patty,
go
do you want to, the next school board meeting is this Thursday.
Oh, by the way, next school board meeting is this Thursday at 6 p.m. And I want to say it's at the district office, but I might be wrong on that. So let's go ahead and make sure to check the meeting notice that's out to the public.
And then public comment, public comments are part of that meeting, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
You have an opportunity to go and have your voice shared there. And I'm guessing that if you reached out to them, they would give you some time to speak about kind of what you're doing and what it looks like going forward for your organization. So definitely a good partner.
Alyssa just confirmed it is at the district office.
Thank you, Alyssa. You're awesome. All right. Any other questions? Oh,
Well, thank you all for your time.
thank you. All right. With that, it looks like we have a Marion County update on economic development strategy.
And Kelly Weiss is coming up to the podium, and I believe you have a presentation, correct?
I do, so let me hold on a second and I'll pull her up. All right, now how do I? Am I missing it? Oh, sorry.
While Kelly is getting set up, I'll just kind of do a little bit of an introduction. She reached out to me recently wanting to come talk to council. Jennifer and I met with her last week just to kind of discuss a little bit about what they're doing and what they do for us and what they are talking about doing for us, and not just Stayton, but all of the Marion County cities. So we happily welcomed her to come talk to council so that she can share with you guys and get your input on the project that she's going to be talking about this evening.
All right, thank you for filling some time. All right, as Julia mentioned, my name is Kelly Weiss. I'm the Economic Development Program Manager with Marion County, and I'm going around to all of our cities seeking input on our upcoming amendments to our Economic Development Strategic Plan. But before I jump into that, I really want to kind of talk about what our program is and what we do. So we take all of the funding, I'll jump around in my slide deck. We receive 2.5% of net proceeds for video lottery that goes to counties. Marion County's portion of that goes to our economic development program. And we allocate those resources out for things that help grow our economy in Marion County. And oftentimes people think about economic development as like, let's bring in that big new business, let's bring in that new business that has 300 new employees or something, and it can be that, and often is, but it can also mean things that just improve standard of living. So we're talking about things that create a cohesive place where people want to live and work. All of those things count as economic development as well. So your community development, as we talked about earlier. So we receive about $2.2 million in video lottery revenue each year, and it is our goal to leverage those resources with grants and other funding sources to be able to compound those dollars and improve our resources for the area. So we have about $19 million in additional grants for this current fiscal year. Sounds like a ton, and it is. This is a very off year. A lot of those dollars are for wildfire recovery up in the canyon. So I was like really hesitant to even put that dollar amount on there because I don't anticipate us forever and always having that much money. But it is important that I'm full transparency, and it is our goal to be able to leverage our video lottery dollars to be able to bring in additional dollars and revenue to our communities. So just to kind of talk briefly about what we do currently, we split our funding into kind of three buckets. The first is lottery distribution, which is basically just taking those dollars that we receive and getting them out into the community as fast as possible. The Community Prosperity Initiative is the one that most people know the most about, at least our cities. That's what we call the grant program for each of our cities to receive $15,000 each year to support your economic development efforts, whatever those may be. Those IGAs with each of the cities are expiring in June, so this is a good chance to figure out if that's a good program for you, if there's things that we can improve on it. And then we also have another grant program called the Emergent Economic Opportunity Program, which is basically an opportunity for grants for programs and projects that are really timely, and if they didn't have kind of gap funding, they wouldn't be able to happen. They're on an invitation-only basis from our Board of Commissioners, but it gives us a chance to have a flexible funding source and supply for those kinds of things that really are timely and we need to get dollars out the door. And then we split really our two main areas of focus, our business and workforce and infrastructure and economic investments. So with business and workforce, we help fund SEDCOR. We have a business retention and expansion manager. His name is Nick Harville. He's funded in part from Marion County's funding. And then we also partner with Willamette Workforce Partnership for a program called the Youth Wage Grant, which basically allows businesses to receive $5 an hour to offset the costs of hiring that youth between the ages of 14 and 17, because we're very well aware how much time it takes to get that youth onboarded, and we want to help those businesses incentivize for them to hire those youth. And then we work with our chambers. We're establishing a small business grant for our chambers. We also have leveraged our dollars for other grants, such as the Salem Community Investment Fund, which was a $2 million grant allocation from the state, from ARPA dollars that was used for the Salem area. We partnered with United Way. They are establishing small senior family cottages and then utilizing it for some after-school support. And then for infrastructure, we consider tourism as part of that, so we help fund Travel Salem, or at least we have historically, and then the Oregon Garden. We've helped the North Santiam Sewer Authority as a government establish themselves. And we're not necessarily funding the capital out of our program, but assisting the ORS 190 organization get up and running. And then our big capital projects really land in the infrastructure. So the Detroit Marinas Excavation and Resiliency Project is a project where we're excavating underneath the two marinas at Detroit Lake, so that way they can operate at a lower lake level. This really helps with Detroit's economy. Obviously, as the Army Corps reduced the pool levels and as drought has affected the lake levels, we really wanted to make sure that those marinas were solvent. And then we're helping shepherd Opal Creek Promise funding. So this is funding that will go to the communities up in the Santiam Canyon to be able to help them recover from the wildfires. And long story short, it was money that was promised to those communities from 1996 when the Opal Creek Wilderness was established, and we're finally able to get those dollars, hopefully, if our grants go through, to those communities. So those are the quick nuts and bolts of some of the things that we've been working on, but what I'm really here today is to learn from you what is important to your communities, how we can be able to support you into the future and make sure that those initiatives and those projects and however we can partner together is included in our strategic plan so we can march forward all as one unit, hopefully. So our strategy, we're in the very first phases. I'm going out to each of our communities and making sure you're aware of it and getting some feedback, and then we're going to be taking that information and compiling it into a strategy in about November, December, and that'll get distributed to our Board of Commissioners for review and consideration, as well as out into the communities for your thoughts. But really what I'm here for is to get your input. So we have 2 surveys. I know you don't need to tell me everything on the dais today. So you're welcome to complete these surveys either as individual city councilors or as a city as a unit. Either way works for me, as long as we're getting some input. I would really appreciate it. And then we also have a public survey, so anyone out in the audience, if you have any input you'd like to provide, there's a public survey as well. And I put some flyers for these surveys out at the front counter as you were coming in. So with that, I'm open to any questions, or if you're dying to give me feedback now, I can jot it all down too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just had a general question. After the surveys are completed and results are tabulated, will that information then be presented to county commissioners, and then how's that going to work?
Yeah, so it's our county commissioners who effectively establish our program. So they're the ones who tell us how we spend our staff time, how we spend our capital resources. So this is a way for us to have a plan for how we're going to allocate those resources over the next 5 years. So we're going to get input from all of our communities, all of our stakeholders. We've talked to a lot of our kind of economic development business stakeholders. And then once we have all that and kind of compile it, I'm going to get it out to our communities again. So I'll probably, in that case, just send it in an email to our city administrator. And then you'll have a chance to look at it. Let me know if we hit the nail on the head or we missed this important piece or whatever the case may be. And that will go to our board at the end of December for their consideration.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions for Kelly? Okay. Well, I'm just going to encourage everybody to do the survey on this. That looks like a good way of getting input and having a voice at the table for this. Encourage any community members to do the same. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. All right. Looks like that is our last presentation of the evening.
Yes.
These are awesome. I'm enjoying these presentations. We keep getting more and more partners in here. It's good. All right, so moving on to item number 8, general business. This is going to be resolution number 1071, authorizing signing a lease for vehicle fleet management with Enterprise. First, we're going to have the staff report coming to us from our own James Brand.
Good evening. For the record, James Brand, City's Finance Director. And yes, Resolution 1071 concerns the city's vehicle fleet. The city has a number of vehicles, and 23 of them are in scope for this proposal. About half of those are public works, and the other half are police, and we have one for code enforcement. We're finding that our vehicles are aging. Average age is over 10 years for our vehicles, which creates maintenance issues. And the city doesn't have a dedicated person to manage the fleet. It's not really our area of expertise. So when there's issues, you know, whoever's vehicle it is having to have a reactionary approach and deal with maintenance. And even the ordering process can be quite cumbersome. I haven't been here a full budget cycle, but I've learned that, you know, you identify vehicles that you need around March when you're building the budget. Budget's approved in June, so by July you can actually place an order. And then the time for delivery is around 9 months on a lot of these vehicles. So it takes a full year to get a vehicle, and oftentimes what the price you pay at that time isn't what you budgeted. So it's kind of hard to create a budget and you know, operate the fleet as well as try to improve it as the years go by. So Enterprise approached us, and we had many discussions, and we're finding that we think we can achieve better fuel efficiency, safer vehicles, lower maintenance costs, and just have a better appearance of our fleet as well. So I'd like to invite them up, and they will give a short presentation.
You thought you were done with the presentations, but you're not.
No, yeah, you're right. Thank you, James.
Thank you. Okay. I think this might be the Marion County. Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
Awesome. Share screen. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you so much for your time today. So my name is Andrea Biddle. I am with Enterprise Fleet Management, and over the last 6 months, I've had the opportunity to meet with different members of your leadership to review where you're at today within the fleet, as well as how we can help. So I would first like to start with a little bit to who we are. So Enterprise Fleet Management is a sister company of Enterprise Rent-A-Car, which is the largest owner and operator of vehicles in the world. Now, how we help municipalities is by reducing the age of the fleet, as well as making sure that we're maintaining within a manageable vehicle budget. So through our meetings with the executive team, we first identified, similar to what James said, is that 60% of the fleet was 10 years of age or older. And what this was doing is negatively impacting the overall budget as well as the operation itself. Another thing that we identified, which is very common with municipalities, is that when you're planning for a budget year, that oftentimes the first thing to be deferred is a vehicle replacement budget. And what this does is cause you to spend more money in other places like maintenance or fuel. So what we did with this information is understand what the city's goals are, and what we identified was 3 main categories. First, reduce the average age of the fleet. Second, reduce operating expenses. And third, make sure that we're maintaining within a manageable vehicle budget. And what we found was by changing your cycle point from what you're doing today, so replacing a vehicle once every 15 years and moving it from turning into a fleet cycling pattern of about 3 to 4 years, depending on the vehicle type, that not only were we able to achieve all of those goals, but we were able to come up with a proactive plan that was going to save the city over $300,000 over the course of 10 years. Now, how we do that is first by leveraging our buying power, so buying vehicles for as low as possible for the city, and then also identifying when that vehicle we can get the most equity from selling it, and then essentially using that to either fund newer vehicles or for other budgetary purposes for the city. Now, another thing to note too is that we have been awarded a contract through Sourcewell. And so essentially that provides piggybackable language where they're able to utilize the due diligence process through them. And another thing for the results from this is going to be that we're going to be able to reduce fuel costs by 30%. We're going to reduce maintenance costs from over $200 down to $50, as well as reduce the overall age of the fleet as a whole. Perfect. So on this next page here is it's going to be a breakdown of where your fleet's at today. One thing I want to draw your attention to is at the very bottom, the model year analysis. And essentially what this does is breaks down how many vehicles you have within a given model year, with about 14 of those vehicles being older than 2015. On average, the age of the fleet is 10 years old. You're averaging about 1 to 2 vehicle acquisitions in a year. And then with this given plan, you'll be replacing, it will take about 15 years to replace the entire fleet. Now on this next section here is again going to be a high-level overview of where the fleet's at today, as well as what our recommendation is. And then at the bottom, it'll take a deeper dive into analysis of what the cost implications of this was going to be. So first section, highlighting what the current budget is, and then what that would look like year over year, with an overall savings of over $300,000, as well as a net sustainable savings of over $20,000 year over year after this program is fully implemented. Also included within the council packet is a case study, program resources, so including the technology that we provide for our municipalities as well, essentially making it easier to operate the fleet. And then also our references of current partners, as well as people that we currently work with in the state of Oregon. So now I'd like to take the time to open it up for any questions if you have any.
We have questions.
Yes, let's hear them.
Go ahead, Councilor Sims.
So you mentioned you're reducing costs from 200 to maintenance costs from 200 to 50. What does that mean?
Yeah, so $205 a month. Essentially, we
monthly, okay.
yeah.
Any other additional questions?
Councilor
Go ahead, Councilor Gilio.
So you're saying the total with everything put together, maintenance, all those. Oh, this is great.
Sorry, I didn't realize that you guys didn't have those in
That's
advance,
fantastic.
so.
No worries. This
Sorry.
is actually what I was about to ask for. So let me just take a second to look at this. Sorry.
Please do.
And just as a reminder, so this is still under the staff, so they're presenting what they've presented to us. If you have any questions for them or James or anybody else, you're welcome to do that before you go into public comments as well.
Do we have any other? Well, maybe we'll get some public comment real quick while counselors are taking a look at this too. And then maybe we'll circle back to additional questions, unless you guys would like some just time to review this real quick. Okay.
So while you guys are reviewing that, this is Jason Lifshin. I'm also with Enterprise Fleet Management. Just for something to consider, when we look at your overall fleet budget, we're looking at 3 main categories. So you have your acquisition costs, your fuel, and your maintenance. So you'll see that that is the main costs that are associated with the fleet. And the way that we get to a cost savings is by operating an equity lease to fund these vehicles that allows you to participate in the equity. So we're going to help you buy the vehicles, like Andrea had mentioned, at the lowest cost, give you recommendations on the best time to sell those, and then you participate in the equity, which we help you to sell those vehicles through Enterprise's resale channels. And then you have a reduction in your maintenance and your fuel costs because you're operating newer vehicles, and because we have the economies of scale through our maintenance programs to allow you to lower those costs.
So all of those things together.
Correct.
That 336,000.
Yep. And the resale is a big driving component, both selling the vehicles that you have in the fleet today, as well as when we go to sell those vehicles that are going to be sold at a newer time frame. That's where you can really capitalize and lower depreciation, which is a very similar model to how we run our rental branches. So we have a similar opportunity, like you do as a government entity, to buy low based on our volume. You get to do the same thing based on the government incentives that you qualify for. And then by selling those vehicles earlier, you get to really minimize the depreciation that you experience. And we just help you to realize that and execute that plan.
Councilor Patty?
Go ahead, Councilor Orton.
For the police, this is including
Correct.
including police vehicles. So I know that when we were trying to buy police vehicles, there was some lag time and like kind of issues with that. Are you seeing that, or are you able to get those vehicles for municipalities in a timely manner? And my second question is, do you just buy those vehicles and then we are in charge of getting them all ready for our officers, or do you take care of that whole thing as well? It comes to us and they're ready to just drive it away.
Yeah, so I'll address question 1, which is, can you get vehicles sooner than we're getting them today? We can give you, we can point you in the right direction of the manufacturers that are going to have the lowest lead time. And we are still in a recovery process in the auto industry where there are production constraints and supply chain issues, but having a partner like Enterprise does allow you to mitigate some of that and help you get pointed in the right direction. We also will help you to coordinate all of the upfit, which is not just specific to the police vehicles, but is the heaviest on the police vehicles, so that when they are delivered to you, they are ready to work. So all the lights, sirens, cages, and things of that nature, we'll help coordinate.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, just look at this bottom line number, 10-year savings of $336,000. Obviously, you're not providing your services for free. So what component of that is, or is that included, I guess, after we pay you whatever you're paying? We're paying you.
So that is included in the analysis as well. So the way that we make our money is through the interest rate as well as a management fee. And again, that's all stuff that's included within the analysis.
Okay, perfect.
And I'll also just say that this resolution is going to authorize us to kind of enter into these agreements. This is a forecast based on their professional recommendation. We're still going to be in the driver's seat on any, literally, on any vehicle that we buy or sell, retain, whatever. And so the actual may change and fluctuate, but this gives us the authority to kind of start down that path.
Thank you, Julia. Any other questions for these two before we move on to public comment? Nope. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and hear from the public now, if there is any public comment on this. Okay. Looks like there's not. Let's move to council discussion.
Councilor Patty?
Yes, Councilor Chilio.
I just wanted to say, I mean, just to kick things off, I mean, I do really like this. I think this is, I think agreements like this that are able to offer, like, doing the same thing at a better rate, I mean, that's the type of, like, that is what I'm looking for, and I think that it is, I do like what I'm seeing here, just as an initial, and just authorizing this to move forward. I like the cost savings. I like it. It's seems like a better product for a lower cost, and so, yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with that sentiment. Page 6 has got some current partners on here. It looks like they're already, I mean, I'm assuming they already have agreements with Coos Bay, Hermiston, Newport, Sandy. So it seems like cities of our size, counties of our size with our needs, this is a good way of improving their organization with this agreement. Any other thoughts? Go ahead, Councilor Sims.
Yeah. Nope, go ahead.
Part of it I like is it's going to take a lot of the burden off the staff, city staff, because it seems like it's a little disorganized. There's no central point, to control vehicles in the city. So, each director is making decisions, and what they need, they put in for a vehicle. So I think that would really help the staff as far as making things more efficient. And I'm all about efficiency. And on top of that, it looks like we'll save $36,000 a year for 10 years. So it's pretty big cost savings too. And I think our fleet will be a lot better off with this program.
Yeah, good point. Councilor McDonald?
Yeah, I was going to say most of what Councilor Sims just said. Also, the point that James made about us being in a kind of a reactionary state right now kind of hit hard. I think that's definitely true, and I think it's definitely a good idea to take some of that burden off of our current staff so they can, perform their normal duties more efficiently. Because we're a city of small size, with a relatively small staff, I think that's kind of outsourcing some of these responsibilities is a good idea, especially when it can save us money. So I'm on board.
Councilor Ward, you look like you have thought.
Can I ask a question?
Are you okay answering some questions? Okay, they're okay. Let's do this.
I already know the answer to this. Do you guys have any street sweepers?
Our niche is 26,000 GVW and below, so that's what we're able to help out with.
Yes, street sweepers fall under a category that's outside of our wheelhouse, and yeah.
I thought so.
I know.
We're kind of in the market for that. So
if you know anyone.
if
No,
you know anyone,
I'm just
yeah.
joking. Okay.
Point us in the right direction.
All right, before this goes off the rails anymore, any other discussion on this item? Okay. Let's move on to council decision in that case.
I move to approve resolution this is the right one, right? Yeah. 1071.
Okay, we have a motion to approve 1071.
Seconded.
And a second from Councilor McDonald. Tammy, would you go ahead and poll the council? Oh, pause real quick. Any other deliberation on that motion?
No.
Okay, sorry. Tammy, would you go ahead and poll the council for real this time? Thank you.
Councilor Sims,
Yes.
Councilor McDonald,
Yes.
Councilor Patty,
Yes.
Councilor Ort,
Yes.
Councilor Giglio.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Awesome, 5-0. All right, that concludes general business. Let's move on to item number 9, communication from city staff. Julia, what you got?
So the only communication that I have that I'm aware of, actually, James, if you wanted to come on up, and in your council weekly update, the finance section, we touched on an issue that was found with the utility bill for the sewer storm. And James is going to explain that a little bit more. And we are going to look for input from council on how we address this. Oh, and while we're waiting for that, Alyssa just reminded me to just remind council and the public that we have the survey for the overnight camping ordinance. It's online. It's been up since we sent it out to interested parties on Thursday. It's been online since Friday, and we've already exceeded the number of responses that we did in the first survey, and it's only been up for a few days, so super excited. Hopefully we'll get way more. So was there anything else that you wanted me to say? Okay, James, go ahead.
Yeah, James Brand again, Finance Director. It was about a week ago, I was reviewing some reports, and we discovered a mistake was made in the rates. If you recall, we increased the water and sewer rates by 6.25% in July, and the storm rates by 40%. Our staff entered those rates into a handy-dandy spreadsheet. Fortunately, they put 6.25 across the board. So the 40% for storm was input at 6.25, effective July. So we've had 2 months go out at that lower increase. Now the storm rate is, 40%, that's a big number, but the storm rate was relatively small in and of itself. So the difference, or what we failed to bill a residential customer, is $4.36 combined for the 2 months, $2.18 each month. So we've gone ahead and the September bill will go out soon, and it will be at the correct 40% rate as you approved. So right now there's the question of do we forget about the increase or for July and August, or do we retroactively add it to the September bill? So that's kind of the question at hand. Apologize for that mistake. We've put in some measures to catch that next time. A second eye will be looking at it next year. That's on the calendar, and that's kind of where we are right now.
Do we have any council thoughts on this?
Yeah, Councilor Patty.
Councilor McDonald, you go ahead, take it away.
You mentioned $4 and change. That's per household, I'm guessing, right?
Yes.
So what is the total impact?
Yes. The total impact is $10,000 per month, so $20,000. 10,003 is how the number came out, so I'm not rounding it too much.
Councilor Sims, did you have some?
Same question.
Same question? Okay. Anybody else?
Counselor Patty?
Yeah, Councilor Giglio.
I definitely know, like, it's not a huge number in terms of, like, for something, and I do think that, and I definitely understand, I think retroactively, if we do decide to retroactively bill it, I think my preference would be that we should eat that cost somehow, just because I do think that was our mistake, and so it's hard for me to say, let's surprise or find another way around it, if at the end of the day it was something that was preventable and we made that mistake on a staff level. So that'd be my preference on that. If there's, that might be why there's, if there's any contingency funds or things like that we can utilize instead, that would be my preference.
Councilor Patty?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Sims.
I concur with Councilor Giglio. I think it's kind of our mistake going back and punishing the taxpayers of Stayton is, I think it's going to cause some ill will. Even though it's not, I know it's $4 and 36 cents, but still.
Yeah, I think I'm with the two of you on this, so that makes 3. Councilor Ort or Councilor McDonald, do you have any other thoughts on this?
Pretty sure we have like $40,000 of council dollars that I would be willing to talk about if we were to eat the cost of that. So that's not just for those of you listening and out there. That was money that we set aside for community grants. So I'm only half joking, but I would agree that I think we should just leave it as it is.
So I think that it was not unexpected, but we wanted to have the conversation with council to confirm that. So it sounds like we will, people will see an increase in their bill again. You know, it will be modest, but it won't be a retroactive increase. It will just be the increase that they should have gotten in July. And then I think what we'll do is just as we go through the year, see where we are at. If we need to move money around from contingency or something like that, we'll certainly communicate that with council as we get, you know, closer to the end of the year. And then also we'll need to look at just those projections. If that makes a huge difference one way or the other, you know, there might be a slightly higher increase proposed next year for storm to make up for, you know, this, but in the grand scheme of a year, it's probably not that significant. So we'll continue to watch it. And if, you know, if we feel we need to do some different things with money, James will come back to you.
Hey, thank you, Julia.
Thanks.
And so that would be a budget adjustment that would come back to the Stayton City Council, if I'm hearing you correctly, if we needed to do that. Or no?
I will let James at the time determine what the appropriate method is.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
It could be like an adjustment, an amendment. It could just be within a line item. So he'll have to determine what is necessary. And if we need to bring it to you, we will bring it to you. And if not, then we'll have figured that out behind the scenes.
Okay. Councilor Patty?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Julio.
So maybe we can use the cost savings from this enterprise agreement. That's right. So
As a reminder,
just
there's
found some
different
dollars.
funds, different funds as a reminder, but.
Okay. Well, with that, is there any other communication from city staff?
Not that I am aware of. I'm just looking to see if there's any like staff waving their hands or anything. No, there is no other.
Awesome.
None at the library.
Awesome, thank you. All right, communication from mayor and council. Well, he's not here, so communication from council.
I got something.
Okay, Councilor Ward.
Okay, we're totally gonna put Christian left, but I'm really excited to see if there's any interesting things that he's gonna do with our survey or how to get more word out. That was something that we heard at the homeless task force that there were concerns from residents that we needed to do a better job of getting this information out. So I'm excited to see what he can do with that.
Yeah, and he's already been thinking and talking about it, and there are some things that we can do both through social media and other ways, and so.
I'm not trying to put you on the
no,
spot
it's
to
exciting.
I'm just excited to see that.
Yeah, we talked about it this morning, so yeah, super excited to see what he's able to do. So
Awesome. Okay, and then I don't know how in depth we want to go on details, but there was an incident that happened downtown so where do I even begin? So there is a disconnect between like what the public thinks that the police can do and what they can actually do in lots of different instances, and one of them is public indecency, which apparently doesn't really exist in Oregon, because in Oregon you could be naked in public, and unless you're doing lewd acts, it's not against the law. However, an incident happened where there was someone downtown apparently exercising that right, but happened to be in front of the dance studio where there were children present, and I'm not really a fan of that. And so I would like to propose that we discuss as a council and give direction to Julia to look into making an ordinance, because cities can do that on their own accord, to make it unlawful over a certain age for someone to be naked in public.
Well, real quick, Councilor Ort,
yes.
I just want to say Julia, I've already emailed and asked for exactly that, so great minds must think alike. So I think that, I'm just curious, when we do that, I think it'd be good to have Gwen present to answer any public safety questions, and I know she's not here tonight, but I definitely have some additional questions about this and what would be required and whether or not it would address the situation that we're trying to avoid in the future.
Yeah, and I expected this to be discussed this evening as something to talk about in the future. What I would propose is allowing us to do some sort of a work session with not just Gwen, but city attorney as well, to kind of talk through what the issues are, what what options there might be, pros and cons, and then have council give direction on kind of how they want to proceed with an ordinance. I guess that's one option. Or you could ask us to draft something that is then discussed in work session, but I feel like having you guys give us some direction after talking about it will allow you to make a more informed path forward.
Okay. That sounds like a good idea. Councilor Giglio, you got something?
Oh, sorry, Councilor Bray. I think both are good options. I am happy to hear that we're moving in that direction as well. I personally am more in favor of having something closer to being draft ready at the work session, just because I think, or even if there's a couple options, just because I would like to move on it fairly quickly. And I feel fairly confident that we're going to move in some sort of direction. So, so that would be my preference.
Councilor Patty?
Councilor Ort, go ahead.
I would just tend to agree with Councilor Giglio on that, only because it's usually easier to kind of pick and choose from a couple different options other than just make something up that, again, with it, I was going to suggest or ask for the lawyer to be present, because again, there are things that we would like to have happen that that can't happen because of other laws in the state. So I think having a starting point would be more helpful than just assuming what we can and can't do.
Any other thoughts on that?
Councilor Patty?
Go ahead, Councilor Sims.
I also would like to see some sort of draft. There's got to be a couple options that we could do. I think more than one option would be beneficial to all of us to take a look at, because I'm sure there's some other communities out there and cities out there that have some ordinance of this nature that we could look at and maybe make some decisions with.
Councilor McDonald.
Just to add, if possible, some information from the chief or from the city attorney on any data they have on effectiveness of that kind of ordinance. You can put an ordinance on the books, but you can't watch every person that walks down the street at the same time. So there's not necessarily, and people that exhibit that kind of behavior aren't always in their right mind to begin with to care about an ordinance. So it may not be out there, but if it's possible, some sort of data about the effectiveness of that kind of thing.
Okay. All right, we will work on coming up with some draft ideas, looking at other jurisdictions, what they've done, what's been found to be legal and effective, and have a conversation. It's certainly not going to be simple. There's, as we've kind of talked one-on-one, there's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of like if then ands type of issues, but we'll do the best we can and present something. It's probably not going to be until I've got my council agenda forecast, probably November. Is that, I know you guys are in a hurry to do something quickly. Is that okay? Or I won't be at the October 2nd meeting, October 6th, and I'd like to be part of the conversation, preferably. October 16th we could potentially do, but we've already got a pretty full meeting that night. thoughts on how quickly and expeditiously you want to address this?
Does anyone have an issue with waiting till November? I mean, that's not ideal, right?
Go ahead, Ben.
Go ahead, Councilor McDonald.
I'd like to address it as soon as possible, but again, I understand the issues, so it's not going to rankle me to wait till November, I don't think.
Councilor Ord, did you have some?
My only concern is, I know that this is not an everyday occurrence. My only concern is that this person kind of got a rise out of people, and that seemed to be something that he was looking for. And so if he knows that is probably going to happen again, that's my only concern with not doing it as soon as possible. I understand time constraints, but that's something that we need to consider, is that if it happens again before we do this, we can't do anything about it, apparently.
So let me talk with the attorneys and talk to Gwen and see what we can do and how quickly we could do something, and I will try. And that's what I'll offer.
Councilor Patty.
Councilor Giglio, go ahead.
Just to clarify, this first discussion is still going to happen in a work session, because it wouldn't be like a full. It wouldn't be bringing into count. We wouldn't be at council yet. Is that correct? Because I think if that's the case, because I don't want to add anything to the October 16th meeting, the actual meeting of it, because I think that that's going to be a full meeting. But I think if there's not necessarily a big work session scheduled on that 16th, I'm trying to see if there's anything in the calendar here.
We do have the ARPA fund use that we wanted to continue that discussion. We could potentially move that. Actually, yeah, I've got to play with the agenda a little bit. We might be able to have a work session on October 16th. My concern with that for me is that will be getting ready for the overnight camping ordinance, and I'll just be getting back from a conference. But let me see what we can do to make something happen for October 16th for the conversation, with the goal then of having an ordinance for November. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
I will try.
And your thoughts on that? Councilor Ord?
Yes, thank you. Julia, you and I kind of chatted about this briefly, but I don't even know if this is possible, but would you all be willing to entertain having city staff look into if there's a possibility for the council to also put, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Like distances away from areas where there's children-specific activities, like the dance studio or daycares, preschools, things that aren't school but are, if sports are happening that are not on school grounds, because school grounds are kind of considered private and people can be trespassed, but I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I just want to know if that's even possible for us to do, keeping in mind that I know that there's a bar across the street. But we can, you can't smoke within 10 feet of a building. I'm looking for something like that, like 10 or 20 feet of a building. You cannot, can we trespass someone off of property for, doing meth, which apparently we can't do right now. So I'm interested in seeing if that's possible, if we can do that as a city.
So can I make a recommendation? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, council, because the urgency with the indecency piece, I guess I would recommend let's focus on that, and then you can come back and circle around to the other piece if there's an interest in that, rather than trying to do it all, and then that's just going to muddy the water, and you're not going to be able to focus on the specific issues. That's my suggestion.
I'm okay with, I mean, I don't even know if you guys are interested in entertaining that, so, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think to Julia's point, the urgency on this is, you know, I'd actually be interested in hearing what those concepts look like in code, but for sure. But I definitely, hearing the urgency on this and this individual, and I definitely have that concern myself, I really think we just need to get this code on the books and then move. Any other thoughts on that? Councilor Sims?
I would definitely be open later on to hear about, you know, distances from, you know, places where, you know, young children are. So I'd be open to hearing about that and discussing that later on.
Thank you. Councilor McDonald, you got it? Okay, he lost it. Anybody else? Councilor Giglio.
Councilor Patty, if we're, are we, I kind of want to make sure that we are like, because I am realizing what I'm saying is kind of going into a new topic. It's connected to some degree, but it's kind of in a new topic. And so I just want to make sure that we're good on this topic before we leave. So I'm sorry, I just realized that as I was speaking.
Any other thoughts on this before? Okay. Yeah, I'm good to go. Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah. So I think connected to this, and I know Gwen's not here, but I think just a general communication that I have and a concern that I have, and something that I've been kind of mulling over as well, is that, you know, and it kind of gets to, I think, Councilor Ort's point, is that, you know, so like if someone is doing meth, right, or if someone is vaping, or if someone is, whatever those things are, there seems to be things that are in ordinance, that I've seen in ordinance. So like the vaping, for example, and I know this actually came up as an example with the chief, where someone said they were doing drugs, but that person was vaping, which, yes, isn't necessarily a big deal, but technically in the code it's actually was prohibited in that spot. And so like there are things like publicly doing drugs that are prohibited in the code. There are things like, we talked about this too, like this comes up a lot in the homelessness discussion, is tags on vehicles, right? When someone's parking something on the street, is that tag up to date, right? And so that is a factor. And so what I'm just curious is looking at what are the ways that our ordinances are enforced, and what are the metrics that we can have as a council for that? Because yes, we didn't have indecency on the books, and I don't think any of us thought we were necessarily going. I never thought to look for it, to be honest. I thought it was illegal. But what I'm just looking at is how do we be able to look at some of these things that I think are on the books, and how can we improve enforcement on some of those things, especially I think on the on vehicles being up to date, things like that, where I know elsewhere things like that seem to be dealt with. And so I just want to, and I don't know exactly what that looks like. Is that a work session or just an opportunity to speak to Chief? But that's just something that I've been thinking about, and I think is connected to this issue, but a little adjacent to it.
Thank you. Let me think on that and talk with the chief and see how we can kind of come back with something at some point to kind of discuss that more. I will say it is still illegal to do drugs in public. It's just not a criminal offense. So it's not a free for all. So just putting that out there. And then I think enforcement is, I'll let Chief kind of talk about that when she is able. So.
Any other thoughts on Councilor Giglio's point or general communication from council?
I would agree with Councilor Giglio. And to Councilor McDonald's point, I would like to see a public indecency ordinance, or whatever we want to call it. But I'm also not, and I will repeat this as many times as I need to make sure that the public understands that if I end up voting no on something like this, and the reason would be that I'm not interested in just making a feel-good ordinance, and I'm not gonna because that's not why we're here. And also I think that gives people a false sense of security which we already thought that we had when several of us thought that indecent exposure was a thing in Oregon. And so that would be one of the reasons that I would vote no, is if the chief told us that it wasn't enforceable. Because it's really frustrating to sit up here and to make ordinances and try to do things to better our community, and then only to find out that they're not being enforced. Is a really frustrating position to be in, because it's a lot of our time as volunteers, staff time, and it sometimes can feel for naught. So I would absolutely like to make sure that the ordinances that we have are being enforced, and if they're not, then why not? And if they need to go away, then that needs to happen as well. So.
Good point. Councilor McDonald, what do you got?
I think an angle we might be able to attack this on is if we put an ordinance on the books, is it something that can be put on is it an offense that can be put on a restraining order, potentially, if an incident like this were to occur again? God hope it doesn't. But is like if it's not a thing currently that particular business location couldn't file a restraining order against that individual, could the ordinance then be something that could be leveraged to do that? So from a legal aspect, could that help, I guess?
Go ahead, Councilor.
Councilor McDonald, do you mean like a trespass kind of thing, or specifically?
Yeah, just I'm assuming that right now, if the dance studio tried to file a restraining order against that person, there wouldn't be any criminal offense to list on there as why they needed a restraining order. And so that's my angle is
okay.
Do we put something to say, okay, well, they violated this ordinance, so now I can file a restraining order that can have potential criminal consequences criminally for that person if it happens occurs again.
Okay.
This is just me thinking out loud, but I think the attorney is going to be able to help us out with that for sure. So.
Yeah, but I appreciate the questions so I can prep them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions for the attorney when we go to speak about this, though, that we can think of? Good, Councilor Gilio.
Yeah, I think I think this has been touched on from a number of different perspectives. Having looked a little bit into it, it seems like there are cases where these calls are made, right? And it's like for me, it's like what taking responsibility in statute, in the ordinance, is my goal, so that if there is a suit, it's at an ordinance level, because I'm not necessarily afraid of a suit around this, if it's something that we think we can thread the needle on, if that makes sense, if it's something that we can hit at. And so what I just want to, the conversation I want to have is like, and I've been looking and I've seen, right, even when there are a little bit of gray area situations, like in Portland, someone was arrested and went before a judge and they sued and all that stuff, and in that situation, the city won. So it's like, I don't think we're necessarily going to get to a zero, I don't think we're going to get to a zero risk situation. I want to think about what's that situation where we're going to be able to put something on the books that is going to be enforceable, and then we can deal with what happens after that. So that's what I want to look at. It's like, I don't need 100% certainty, but just think about what is workable, what has other people done, and how has that enforcement went for them. And so that's just kind of what I'm interested in. I don't think we're going to get to 100% certainty. These are gray areas, actually, in terms of the First Amendment as you're dealing with all of these things. But I just want to think about how are we getting to the thing that we think we can thread a needle with and that will be enforced. And that's the goal.
Okay.
All right. Any other thoughts, questions? Okay. All right. I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything else that's not about this? Okay. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.